What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we're back. Some more Shift Game Dev ride along for you guys tonight. Um, I'm really happy. Let's just open with that. I'm in a great mood. I've finally got what I would call a playable game. Now, is it great? No. Is it done? Not even remotely close, but it's playable, and that's a huge accomplishment. At this point in time, I could give someone a controller and they could play through the game. So I guess that's what we're going to do. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So give you back my screen. You can see the whole world here. Just quickly going over everything. Pretty much some of the coolest stuff I built recently is I just reworked the shop system. I built a new power-up system that's way cooler using something that I didn't even know existed a few days ago. Power-ups here called a scriptable object. These are super cool for doing stuff like power-ups. You just give them a couple different statistics. Obviously this is probably going to expand as we go. And yeah, so you can give them all sorts of cool names and all these variables and stuff. They hold that inside of just a couple of scripts, and then instead of having to do prefabs, which was the system I was working on before, which are about 700 kilobytes each, these are 1 KB. So I can generate a power up in like 10 seconds now. I just have to go create power up and then, you know, pump in those values and create one function, and done. New power up goes into the game. And then the only other part for me that's a little bit difficult is I have to make sure that I have, because I know that the shops, the drops, the shops, and the chests are going to eventually have different power-up lists. I'm keeping a list of each thing going on here to control which ones you get. So I just finished working out that shop stuff, getting that working, so we'll see if that blows up. But without further ado, let's show you guys the game in general. So the full dungeon generation system is, I'm just running it not at runtime for now. I'm going to probably make that function once I do a transition from the main menu. But yeah, Norbert is fully functioning, although I've learned a few things I'm going to probably make some changes on soon. We've got some jittery clouds in the background, still haven't fully finished working on those guys yet. And as you come into the rooms now, the enemies are properly spawning, and yeah, you're in for kind of the fight of your life here against these guys who are all going to fucking blast off. Sorry for the swearing, just so damn cool. Yeah, so there's still like just a little bit of jankiness. There's some smoothing that certainly needs to happen, but I'm just feeling so great that the game's in a more playable state. Now, if you're watching the video, you might be thinking, well, what are you talking about, Matt? You've had all this stuff in for a long time. And sort of. I've never had it all cohesively working together, so I just finally tied it all together. Yeah, so everything's looking pretty cool now. So the gates are popping up, the enemies are spawning, all this is working. It's all actually running on a behavior tree system as well. Oh, cool. Look what we've discovered. A little shop area. Sweet. I've got a couple different just kind of bland power-ups in the game, so a lot of, oh no, that's still drawing a bridge. Oh no, it should be, never mind, there's a connecting bridge there. Okay, I'm wrong. Yeah, everything's just looking great. So the shops are working really well. So this one's an attack power-up, this one's a size power-up, which really does nothing but negatively make you larger at this point in time, but ta-da, we had $5, we could buy it. Try to buy the attack, we get a little no money. Try to buy this one, we get a little no money sign, just like the shop used to work before. Except now it's spawning with the new power-up system. Now I'm just going to preemptively say that I do know the exit is not down there, so we're going to go back up here. Yeah, so there's, oh god, there's an endless list of things I want to do, but in terms of all the primary systems at this point in time are into the game. So anything that I do at this point is just polishing or reworking systems instead of having to kind of invent stuff from scratch, which is a lot nicer than trying to do everything all at once. So yeah, the bridges, you can see these two little balls here is actually they connect in the middle. So what happens is every room draws half a bridge, and then that's that connecting point. These rocks, I wrote like a little bit of a script where you can set all sorts of different rotations. So it's just a really handy thing to have, and gets them to kind of float up and down and twist around and do all sorts of cool stuff like that. Yeah, these guys are obviously very, very easy. These are what I'm calling my Goomba enemies. So they're just like the most basic, simple thing that pretty much anybody should be able to handle without really taking too much damage or getting hit too much, although I'm usually a little better at games than most people, so I'm curious to see. The gates, as you can see, are despawning as the enemies die, so that's really cool too. Yeah, no, I'm just real happy with this starting to feel a bit more like a game. All this work is just, yeah, wow, it's starting to finally take shape. As I've been saying for a while now, like all this ugly randomness is going to slowly start to look good. And then obviously a lot of the art stuff. Oh no. Oh good, it landed on the mountain. All the art stuff that you guys are seeing is also going to be obviously hugely updated. But everything is, yeah, it's just everything's in a placeholder state, but it's, yeah, I'm in a pretty good mood tonight. I guess I can't stop repeating that enough. Yeah, so let me show you guys one more piece of this. I think it's up here somewhere. Gonna have to fight my way through a couple of rooms, which takes a little longer for demoing or showcasing things, but starting to get a bit of a rough idea of how long this is going to take, which is pretty cool too. One of the other issues I had is I had to sit down today and put walls on all the rooms because they didn't actually have walls on them, and what happened was when the guys shot themselves backwards, they were flying into oblivion and dying off the edge of the cliff, and that's really not what you want to go for. So I've got the gates popping up here just to kind of give you a bit of a scare, but this is actually the boss connection room. So I don't think I've shown this off yet, but basically what I did is I built a crystal, and then when you're close to the crystal, we're going to get some sort of cool little effect that we've got designed here for like a VFX. And then when you try to attack in this area, you go teleporting all the way over to the boss area, which is not exactly the prettiest at the moment, but it is here. And then we got our cool little flying bridge thing that kind of soars into existence. And obviously this weird kind of, what is this, a brick or old corroded metal kind of pattern needs to be changed up. Come in, the boss spawns, and then this whole fight is actually kind of working as well. I gave him some melee attacks to kind of force you out of melee range a little bit more often. Really your color doesn't matter so much, but now you kind of have an advantage from attacking from behind. And then yeah, your black and white shifting won't matter because he takes gray damage, but in terms of where your positioning is in the room, it will kind of force you around for these puzzles. And this fight, once I threw in those melee punches, actually got a lot more fun. I really didn't have to design too many new systems. Their hitboxes are still a little bit janky, so ooh, I'm getting risky here. Whoa, that should probably not be overlapping. So there's one little glitch. I'm actually surprised. I was kind of waiting to start this video up to show you guys how everything's looking, and then constantly be like, oop, that's a glitch, oop, that's a glitch. Oh, dang, I was too close. So, oh, he punched me there. Yeah, so another thing, like little stuff that I want to add in, I want to get a screen shake going on. Oh, it's going to get me. When you get hit, so that you kind of feel that oomph a little bit more. This actually, I'm pretty happy with the way that's working nowadays. The white and black, getting that to be visible and clear where you're supposed to stand, but also like not too impairing for seeing the bosses underneath attacks and stuff like that, was actually a lot harder than you might think. And I got him. Take that, boss. So, ooh, there's some weird lag when he dies. Anyways, yeah, so that's the first area. So at this point in time, you would teleport and move on to, I guess, like floor number 2. And that's a rough idea of how long or how interesting these floors are going to be. Now, I haven't actually timed this out yet, so I'm just going to flip back to me, since I think that's all I'm going to show you guys. I'm just going to talk for another minute or two here and check. It's about 7 or 8 minutes. That's really good considering the enemies are insanely basic. There's only a couple spawning. The amount of rooms isn't too extensive, and I did actually go and check through quite a few of them. So that's good. That's about what I'm aiming for. I kind of want the whole game to take less than an hour if I can manage that, although probably when I'm all done, it will take a little bit longer for an average run, unless you just really speed run the whole thing or something. And yeah, I'm getting real pleased with it. So I don't even really know what to say other than, yeah, I'm just in a fantastic mood because things are finally coming together. So the game's starting to look like a game. I move in just over a week, which means my full-time work on this is coming to an end, and it's going to get a lot harder to get things done. So I'm real happy if I can get all the systems in. All I have to do is just kind of do planning and design at that point in time. That's going to be hugely helpful for me. Because then I don't have to make any sort of large changes. And a big one for me, a huge time sink that's probably going to take me about 7 or 8 months at least, is just doing the art for this. I am not, as I've said 1,000 times, not a great artist. I'm getting a lot better at it actually pretty quickly, so I just need a lot of time to be able to design and do all that, unless someone falls out of the sky and does it for me. So here's hoping. But in the meantime, I think that's going to be all on my shoulders. So I'm going to try to get this looking real pretty in the future. But first, I want to make it to be kind of a fun game, and I've been kind of fiddling around with the systems and playing with the power-ups. And then once once the power-up system is fully integrated, and tonight has kind of been my night to do that, then I think, yeah, it should be really easy to just build out a bunch of cool and fun power-ups and have them call and change things and make modifications, and that'll start breaking stuff and yada yada yada. The other problem in the game right now is the way that Unity, for anybody who's a programmer or curious about this, the way that Unity handles collision is really janky in my opinion. I don't like it. It really bothers me. So right now what I did is at first I used something called a rigid body. So when you create an object in a game, this is going to be our object, you put a collider on it. If there's no collider, everything can go right on through. There's nothing stopping it. So you put maybe a box collider, a capsule collider, whatever shape you want. You can do a mesh collider so it would actually like track every finger if you wanted things to pass through individual holes. So this is how you create collision in Unity, and most game engines pretty much work the same way. You create a collision box. So the collision box can have a couple different settings on it. It could be a trigger so that it just goes off when you step into it or something, but you don't actually physically touch it. Usually they're going to be a solid collider. And then the way that you make these things move around and interact in Unity specifically is called a rigid body. And what a rigid body does is it allows all the physics that operate in the Unity engine to kind of apply itself. So you can use different scripting things like rigidbody.addForce, and that means that if you have an object and you add a force in this direction, off it goes, which you see when those guys fire their shot, they ricochet backwards. They're actually using a rigid body with an add force component. The problem with this, and this one I have not fully understood yet, but I had my character working as a rigid body. Now, the second that you create a bit of an incline and the character tries to walk up it, that rigid body is constantly being pushed down by the gravitational force, and you get this really kind of janky, slidey drag movement, like he's dragging an anchor with him up a hill. So I didn't like that. So what I did is I switched over to a character controller, and a character controller is actually just the same thing. It's just a collider. However, you can move this collider around and it doesn't get hindered by things like gravity in the same way. Gravity can still affect the character, but the character controller actually has like a slope variable, and based on that slope, as long as he's not trying to traverse too much of a slope, it will actually just kind of lift the collider up, which is really cool because you can build things like individual stair pieces, and the collider will just kind of like do and climb the stairs. So I was like, oh, this is so much better. This is great. The problem now is because the character collider doesn't use the mass and the physics forces of a rigid body, when he touches a rigid body, it just slides out of the way because the character controller is kind of king in terms of these interactions. So I think I need to go back to the rigid body one, write my own entirely. I don't know. There's no great solution that I've found so far in Unity, so I'm probably going to take a little bit of time tonight and just watch some tutorials where people talk about these things and see if someone's come up with a really good suggestion or something I haven't thought of. But I have actually written him in 3 different ways now. Actually, the first a long time ago was just using a transform translate, and that's basically like doing a teleport. So when I touch the crystal and the screen fades out, what we actually do is we teleport him. So you don't want to translate your normal movement, or you can just warp through walls and stuff like that. So yeah, these are the movement systems in Unity, and that's one of the next things I want to fix up because I really want the combat system to feel punchy and great, and it's getting there. It's just not where I'm happy yet, but it's getting much closer. So anyways, yeah, that's me prattling on for tonight about the game. If anybody's curious, has any questions, please ask away. But yeah, this is what game development is like, and this is how long it takes. I think we're almost up to video 50 now, and I have certainly not been making them once a day anymore. So it's been a couple of months since I started making these, and yeah, this is how far we've come along. So we went from our green blue sky with green on green, and then we switched to purple, and now we switched more to like a desert theme. We've got all the mountains up, we've built all these cool little icospheres and stretched them all out and created all these rocks and made all these floating rocks, and I've written a lot of scripts. And the other thing to think of if anybody here is interested in making games is your first 2 or 3 games are probably going to be nightmares. You have to solve all the problems. Every single day you are coming up with a new gigantic issue you have to work through. The nice thing about game number 2, game number 3, game number 4 is you've already solved a lot of these. Now my issue is my first game was 2-dimensional, so my second game is basically a whole new world of problems. But once I'm done this, I know how to make a 2D game and I know how to make a 3D game. And I have a whole library of Unity scripts now. So we've created a dungeon generation system. If I want to do another procedurally generated game, I'm going to use my dungeon generation system. It's pretty good, I think. I've created stuff like, the rotation scripts. I've created destruction scripts. I've created instantiation scripts. I've created shop scripts and power-up scripts and all sorts of different controllers. Even the character controller itself, I could always just bring Norbert into another game and use him as the baseline to get something running around and moving, so you don't have to remember the syntax for everything. So when you're programming thousands of lines, it gets tough. So yeah, a lot of this time will be cut down for me in the future, but yeah, this game is going to be a behemoth. So stick around, because I'm probably going to be sitting here chatting about this for the next couple of years, just in a new box. So I'll see you guys later, and if anybody has any extremely high-paying and low-effort jobs in Ireland, sign me up. Give me a shout. Appreciate that. All right, I will see you guys next time. Hope you're enjoying the ride along and are curious to see the progress of making a game. Sorry I didn't go too in depth into how any of this stuff works, but hopefully that brief explanation of physics is enough for today. And later on I can show you guys some more scripts and stuff if anybody's curious about that. I've even considered making some tutorials for game development because, yeah, all of them seem to be very basic. They're all like, here's how to move a cube, and no one ever goes into, now that you can move a cube, here's how to do interpolation effects on a rigid body, and here's how to make a character controller interact properly with a rigid body, and, you know, all these actual like kind of intermediate level problems that I'm now running into. So I thank you so much to everybody on the internet who's made beginner tutorials, but I'm just at a point now where I kind of need the next step, and those are actually a lot harder to find, because most people, all they do is make a sandbox and then do a quick tutorial. They don't use like a real live game environment. So anyways, I can prattle on about that for a long time, but I won't for tonight. You guys have a wonderful evening. I will see you soon with another update. Thanks for watching.